What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here to talk to you about One Piece, chapter 955. And yes, I'm deciding to, not every week, but every other week, or whenever I feel like it or have the time, I will do a kind of review of One Piece as well. And just to show that I do, Trafalgar Law, favorite character. Best character. I am a One Piece fan. So yeah, like I said, when it comes to this chapter of One Piece, there's a lot. And there's normally a lot in One Piece chapters, but this one, it's a lot. It's a lot of speculation. Mainly because, for the most part, this chapter takes place after Reverie. Approximately a week after Reverie. And during this time period, a lot of things go down. And through this, chapter, we gain a lot of information. But let's start off this review of the cover page, which is still, you have Gang Beige and his wife Chiffon. They're still looking for Lola, and it's very implied that Lola may be in Dressrosa, or at this moment has been near Dressrosa recently because of everything that happened, because there's a guy who recognizes Chiffon as Lola, which makes sense because they're twins. So either he remembers her from like 2 years ago, or within the 2 years she has moved somehow back to the new world. So that's something else. Still not sure where this is going, but it could possibly be that Lola is in the new world. They meet Chiffon, they come to a realization that, oh yeah, Big Mom is a big, bad woman. Yeah. And they become a big happy family, and she meets her nephew. So that's probably what could happen. I'm not 100% sure. But going right into the chapter proper, we get Garp, we get King Riku, and we get Shirahoshi talking about basically the events of Reverie, because they just arrived at Ryugu Palace Castle in the Ryugu Kingdom. They're just making small talk for the most part. And what Garp does is he basically gives them like a summation of like what Reverie really is. It's like it's not just people coming together and like discussing like what the world is about, but it's also like realizing that, and he wants to say he's sorry for like what he might have seen there, but it's basically like yeah, they want to like help the world, but they also are selfish because they are royalty, they are nobles, which is explained more, in which like for the most part they don't get along with each other. Even if they're in the same room, they don't really get along with each other, because basically there are kingdoms that hate each other and they would fight openly, but then there are also kingdoms who hate each other, but they do it silently. So it's basically, and probably what is summed up most is, they fight openly like dogs. Resources and technology are just tools for power. So they seek out power. And when it comes to Reverie, it's like basically gaining intel on the power of the world. And even though, yes, it's like, oh yeah, we're here to help the world, they're more specifically there to help themselves. And one big thing that Garp also brings up is that before he even says anything, he's like, by the way, if no bloodshed, if there was no bloodshed, then it's mainly peaceful, but this is something different. So apparently blood was shed at this Reverie. Whose blood? I have 4 ideas, and two of them are related to each other, and I'll explain a little bit more, but Garp basically talks about, yeah, there was an incident at Reverie right after you left, weirdly enough. So yeah, I can't stay long, but he prefaces it with like, don't hate all humans, please don't be mad, something happened to the Alabasta Kingdom. And Shirahoshi's like, Vivi-sama? What happened with Vivi-sama? I don't know, but I'm probably gonna explain it, because after like a week after Reverie ends, everyone is leaving the capital, is leaving Marijola, and Big News Morgans just appears out of nowhere and talks about basically 2 instances that occur, and more like 3, but like 2 main instances that occur. He says there was a death and the result of the Reverie. And when it comes to that death, 2 people that come to mind, Vivi and Cobra. It's very likely that one of them died, because in this, at least in this translation, it also brings up the idea of an assassination. So a failed assassination, but assassination attempt. Meaning that theoretically they both could be alive, and probably the one that died is one of the other two that I will talk about. Or it's likely that Cobra died and Vivi was attempting to be assassinated but failed. Or Vivi died and Cobra was the failed assassination. And here's the thing. This could be a lie, because Big Nose Morgans has been known to lie, but later on in the chapter, it's most likely not a lie. Because he talks about this assassination attempt and the results, which the results of this reverie is very, very surprising. No, it's not. They abolished the Shishibukai system. The 7 warlords have been abolished. And that's something I'll discuss later, but those are the two main instances. A death at Reverie, which could have been Vivi, or a death, or the abolishment of the Shishibukai. And the reason why I bring up Vivi is because if we remember Im-sama, he was carrying 4 pictures: Blackbeard, Shirahoshi, Luffy, and Vivi. And at this moment in time, 3 of them are alive, and one of them's fate is unknown. So Vivi could have died, because they also did talk about a cleansing, the 7 great stars, which could also tie into the fact that maybe Cobra was the one that died, because he was the ones who were going against them, and he's like, oh, he wanted to look like Cobra wanted a meeting with us, we may have to end him. So it is implied that one of them possibly died, or it could have been 2 others. Now, who are those 2 others? I'll explain a little bit more later, but it involves the Revolutionary Army. So that gives you a hint on what possibly could have happened. But yeah, if anything, what's very interesting about this chapter, though, is that we get like character development, or like more characterization of Big News Morgans, because he's not the best person in the world, but he has some form of integrity as a journalist, which he does give in a speech. But this integrity is shown where he's like, yo, this news is so great, we have to spread it to the world. And our dude just walks in, it's like, yo, Big News, here's a check for the government. He looks at it, he's like, wow, this is a hefty amount, but send it back. This is too good of news. And apparently the dude who gives him the check is like, you should probably reconsider, because he's a part of CP0. And it's like, how did CP0, where did this dude come from? And then all of a sudden we cut to like noises happening in Big News' ship, and then we just see the CP0 agent on the ground with News Morgans like having his fists up like this, implying that he beat up a CP0 member. Which means one of 2 things. Morgans is stronger than he appears, because he is a Devil Fruit user. He has a Bird Zoan type. Probably the Bird Fruit model, probably Wingo, not Wingo, he's a Pokemon, no, of a pelican, or of a seagull, most likely, because he does control what is equivalent of seagulls in the One Piece world. Or 2, that CP0 agent is weak, which we do know, because there are members of CP0 who we know for certain are literal weaklings. Now, we all know who we're talking about. I don't need to bring up his name. It's not that I forgot it or not. It's mainly because I don't care. So yeah, it could be that he's very weak. But yeah, basically Big News is like, okay guys, let's like get out of here. Which, in this chapter, it confirms that Big News has a flying machine and a hot air balloon. So at the very least, hot air balloons exist in the One Piece world, like actual hot air balloons. Now it's powered by his birds, but I'm gonna say hot air balloons confirmed. Yeah, but then weirdly enough, we tie into more of like a news like announcement. We see the entire world talking about the news that happened down at Reverie and what is covering, and this ties into the second part of like who possibly died is Kuma and Sabo, because we get this news spread over the world, and Revolutionary Army, specifically Vonkov, Betty, Koala, and Dragon, we get like their reactions to it. And what is very interesting is that they're sweating, like legitimately. Like Betty, who has this cold persona, has a single sweat drop. Dragon has like the lines going down his face, as well as like he's sweating. Ivankov is sweating as well, and they're talking about they refuse to believe it, and they need to like get the information for what happened with Sabo at Reverie, because they're like, no, there's no way that this happened. There's no way that this happened. So either Sabo got captured, which would evoke probably the same type of fear, but what probably wouldn't do the same type of fear, or maybe it could, is Koala. She's sweating and trembling, but she's shedding a tear, which could imply that he gets captured. Which, okay, he gets captured, but he could be sent to death the same way as Ace did, which could cause her to cry as well, because it's like, oh, he's dying like his brother. But that can also apply to who else we see. Also, we see Stelly, but no one cares about Stelly. He's like, oh no, my brother, he was there. Yeah, he literally escorted you up the building, but no one cares about Stelly. But yeah, but the reason why I confirmed that maybe Sabo is dead, I mean, it could be Kuma, because also what is this established a little bit later is that Blackbeard, who seeks Devil Fruit, say, yo, let's go after the Marines right now, because we cannot let them have it. So it is inferred that whoever has possibly died possibly has like lost their Devil Fruit, and now the government has it. And Kuma's and Sabo's Devil Fruits are both very powerful, and the government would be very great to have them. But chances are high enough it may be Sabo's Maramanomi, because of how it's a Logia and how it could be potentially more powerful. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we get a few more pictures of Makino. We get the bandits who, first of all, comes to the conclusion that Sabo's alive, but then they feel like they're crying because it's like, Sabo's alive, but he's dead or captured. Either way it can play into it, because the last time someone that they cared about got captured, Ace got killed by the Marines. And if he's captured by Marines as a revolutionary, he's probably gonna die as well. So it's either Sabo or Kuma got captured. Most likely Sabo either got captured or is dead, which means that the assassination attempt could be on King Cobra and or Vivi, and they're still alive. So best case scenario, instead of like one of them dying, Sabo dies. There's no best case scenario. Like, either one of those options happening is very, very bad. But yeah, chances are high enough it was probably Sabo. And we get a picture of Don Flamingo laughing as well, because why not? And he's not in like full chains, which means that he's probably more likely than not freed from like the assassins didn't kill him, basically. So yeah, there's that. Also, probably the second crucial thing that happened is the abolishment of the Shishibukai. And so within this chapter, we get basically pictures of like military, not military, but the Navy. No, not the Navy. The Marines going after each of the Shishibukai. We see the reaction that they have with Buggy D Clown, and how he's like, yo, let's fight the Marines, but in reality he's like, yo, while they're fighting, let's dip. Probably the best reaction is probably Dracula Miha's reaction. He's like, oh, it's been a while since I've been chased. I'm shivering with excitement. Weevil, being idiots, like, Mama, our allies are attacking us. And she's like, they're not our allies. And he's like, okay, I'll kill them. And then you have Boa, who probably has the second best reaction. He's like, oh, the Marines are here? It's fine. Do you remember why we're even here in the first place? The reason why I became a warlord? Because we're so strong. So it's fine. We're gonna kill them. Like, that's probably a great... So, like, we get the reactions of the Shishibukai, the warlords, and it's a great reaction because it shows that the Shishibukai have been abolished, and like there are even comments of like, wait, weren't they one of the great powers? What's gonna happen? And the pirates themselves are like, good, the dogs of the military, they deserve whatever goes to them. And the people's like, oh yeah, they should have done this in the first place. So there are many different interpretations of it, but probably the biggest thing in this entire chapter is the conversation that Kobe has with someone on Wano, because Kobe, who at right now is a rear admiral, which is great because within like the span of like maybe a week or so, he went from captain to rear admiral, which is one step away from being a vice admiral, which are some of the strongest characters in Marines. But see, here's the thing: he has a conversation with someone, and it cuts to Ebisu Town in Wano, meaning like, oh, there's a spy in Wano. We all knew that, but who is this spy? And it will shock you. No, it won't. It's DS Drake. And we get a lot of information from this, that DS Drake was a former Marine turned pirate, but was never really a pirate, was always a Marine. The opposite of his father, who was a Marine who permanently turned pirate. He was a Marine that stayed a Marine. But yeah, we get the confirmation that X Drake is a Marine, and so is Kobe, but they're part of a specific faction called the Secret Special Forces Sword. And Drake is a captain, while Kobe is just a part of the Union. Which implies that, like CP0, there are factions of the actual Marines that are kept secret from other people. Which is probably implied that that is the unit that, if I remember, that Corazon was a part of. He was probably a part of the Sword unit, or like a member of the Sword unit. So that's very interesting. That's new information that we got, and it makes sense that Kobe is a part of it because of how strong he is, and the fact that it's a secret organization. And when it comes to Kobe, like, this seems like something that he wants to do, like to discover the secrets of the Marines, to have them more open. But it just shows that his strength, and it also shows that Kobe and X Drake or DS Drake are working together. And Kobe, and this also confirms that what happens outside of the world doesn't technically reach Wano unless you have a Mushi, meaning that whoever is the informant for Blackbeard has to have a Mushi, because those are the only way that they can communicate with each other. But long story short, DS Drake is not a traitor for the Marines. He just works in the same vein as Corazon does, which we should have expected that. We should have. But yeah, they basically have a conversation about like, yeah, Big Mom, she went to Onigashima, and instead of fighting Kaido, they teamed up. And Kobe is like, what? And it's like, yeah, the Marines won't be able. And then Kobe's like, yeah, unfortunately, DS Drake is basically like, okay, yeah, we need the Marines here now. Mainly because there's also a CP0 member. And Kobe's like, a CP0 member? It's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. It's like, oh yeah, the Marines are doing some secret stuff. So yeah, it's confirmed that they are working together, and at one moment the Marines were coming, but they can't because pretty much all the Marines are now going after the former warlords. So yeah, when it comes to this, that's everything that really basically happened in this chapter. And let me just say, oh my gosh, I loved every minute of it. When it comes to this chapter, nothing lower than a 4. If anything, 4.75. Almost perfect. The only thing that would have made this a 5 out of 5 chapter is if we knew exactly what happened at Reverie, whether or not it was the death of Sabo, the death of Vivi, who died, who's still alive. Only thing that prevents the chapter from becoming a 5 out of 5. But we gain new information about something that we didn't know at first. We get the confirmation that the Shishibukai has been abolished, and we also get confirmation of what DS Drake is doing. We get Kobe again, and that he has a higher rank. We get more establishments of Morgans as a character. All in all, very good chapter. This is going to be a very long video in comparison to everything else, so hopefully you enjoyed this review, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you guys there. Goodbye for now.